What's up? Welcome back to another episode of After Dark. That's right, where students talk about real life issues. So tonight, I'm excited to introduce you to two of our students right here at Pursuit. First, I'm starting with Bailey. Bailey is an 8th grader at Mill Creek Middle School. Bailey, say something to everybody. Tell them what's up. And also, I've got with me my main man, Marlon. If you didn't know, now you know. Marlon Edwards, 11th grade, Bandy's High School. Marlon, say hello to the people.
Listen, you already covered it all, man. I appreciate that intro. That was nice. It is your boy, Marmar. Classic, make it fantastic. I do what it do. You can refer to me as Mr. President, East Coast Escobar. I got a lot of aliases, but we going to be Marlon today.
All right, so you know who we've got tonight talking to you. Tonight, we are going to talk a little bit about self-image. And we're going to talk about what it is to navigate self-image in today's world as a teenager, in today's culture, social media, and the like. And just to kick us off, I want to tell you a little bit about why God has just really laid this on our hearts to talk about tonight. So self-image is driven heavily by the culture that we live in. Self-image is how we or other people perceive things like our body type or what we think perfection looks like. It's driven by things like economic status, whether we perceive ourselves to maybe be rich or poor. It's driven by how we interact socially with others. Sometimes we can just feel socially awkward. It can even be driven by our academics and things that, teachers say or our parents say to us, that we can perceive ourselves to be smart or not smart. A lot of times it just drives negative thought patterns in our life. And, for some of us, if we're being completely real, there's a lot of people out there who have just suffered from neglect or maybe even, verbal abuse or physical abuse or mental abuse in their life where they've been told by somebody they respected. It could be a coach, could be a parent, could be a teacher that, they are this or they are that. And they begin to believe that about themselves and they kind of begin to live out their life in that way. So tonight, we just want to be real. We want to talk about self-image, hear from a couple of students about how they feel about this in their own life. And so we're just gonna jump right in. You guys ready?
Let's get busy.
All right, let's do it. Bailey, I'm gonna start with you if that's all right. So Bailey, tell me, what is the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to you in your life?
Dang, I've had a lot of embarrassing things, but one of them probably is when I went on a ski trip and the ski lift knocked me over and I face planted in front of like 40 people in the snow.
All right, so you're on a ski trip. Now, is this your first ski trip?
Yes, I've never been skiing, so I didn't know what to expect, and that was definitely something I did not expect to happen at all.
All right, so you're on a ski trip. You got all these people around. You think they're all looking at you. Mm-hmm. The reality is probably nobody's looking at you. But so you're standing in front of a ski lift?
Mm-hmm. And it never stops, and I thought it did, and so I was just standing there waiting for it, and then next thing I know, I'm in the snow with my face in it.
Plant in the snow. Now, do you ever actually make it onto the ski lift?
I did, but they had to stop the whole thing, and people were kind of mad, but then I got on, and then my ski fell off, and it was just a whole big thing after another.
So have you ever been skiing since this little incident?
No, I'm too terrified to go again.
So this simultaneously was the beginning and the ending of your ski career.
Yes.
All right, that's pretty embarrassing. I get it. Marlon, so I got a question for you. So if you could change anything about yourself, what would it be and why?
Man, it's hard to change perfection. You know what it is? Nah, I'm just playing. Let me chill. But I got to say, it's got to be my hairline, man. It's not the best as it could be. You know what I mean? I know we got our imperfections, but I got to say, this hairline right here, it's got me through a lot of bad days. I got an embarrassing story of my own. We were at a youth center. It was a bunch of like the friends in my grade. And like I remember like one of the girls was like, let me play with your hair, let me play with your hair. I get that a lot. So I was like, you know what, I'll let up one day. So she's doing it, and she pulls it all the way back. So everybody just sees it, full flesh, full form, the full 5'6" head with the hairline. It was terrible. It was terrible.
Now, Marlon, the hair looks fresh. So you're just saying, listen,
you.
if we pull it back a little bit, the hairline you're not overly comfortable with.
Listen, if y'all pull it back, you won't be hearing from my lawyers, is what I'm saying. Yes, yes.
All right, I get it. I got some things like that about myself too, Marlon. All right, so Bailey, let me ask you this. What do you think the biggest influence in today's culture is on teenagers? What's the biggest influence on self-image, the way we feel about ourselves?
Definitely social media, because social media is like everywhere nowadays. You can't escape from it. And so I think a lot of people, when they get on there, they start feeling insecure about themselves when they see other people they think that are prettier than them and stuff, so they don't accept themselves. And also friends, because now it's like a 50-50 chance with friends. They're either toxic or they're there for you.
Sure.
So if you get that bad friend, it's going to make you feel very worse about yourself, because they're just going to talk down to you.
So how have these two things, you said two things you feel like really drive self-image, social media and what you see on social media and what's portrayed there, and then also friendships. How have one or both of these influenced your own personal self-image?
Probably the friends, because I had bad friends, and I finally found some good friends this year, and the ones that weren't so nice to me just made me feel very bad about myself when I already didn't feel good about myself. So it was bad. Like when they talk down to you, it's horrible, and it just makes you feel worse about yourself. Then when you found out they lied about you, then it makes you feel even worse.
Sure. What do you think about that, Marlon? What do you think the biggest influences are?
Yeah, definitely those two, especially social media friends. They both are big deals. But another one could be like with parents, because just how you're raised, it's definitely going to have a big toll on how you are. You'll see it and you'll be like, oh, you act just like your dad. Well, it's because they were raised by him. They're going to act just like him depending on how their parents raised them. So another big influence would be your parents.
Sure. So, I think that's great. I mean, definitely things that we see in our social media feed are going to, lead us to believe something about what right looks like or what perfection looks like. I think our parents, so many times it seems like to me that the parents try to live out what they didn't do well in their life through the kids. Is that something you see?
You can definitely see that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That's a big thing.
Why do you say that? You piped up.
Well, because probably like the parents, when they made mistakes back then, they don't want their kids to make them, but they try to force them to be what they want their kids to be, when the kids don't want to be that.
Yeah.
They want to be their own selves and like leave their own legacy, not their parents' legacy that their parents wanted them to do.
That's good.
Amen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just got to leave it up to your children.
That's it. So, Marlon, if you were going to describe your self-image, how would you describe your self-image and why?
So basically how I'm portrayed, or at least how other people see me.
Yeah.
Gotta say, they probably think, I'm funny, well-spoken, outspoken, handsome, tall, athletic, beautiful, just a bunch of those things all rolled in one. But it would definitely be like, funny, outspoken, social, stuff like that, yeah.
But how do you see yourself? So that's how the outside world, that's what you portray to the outside world. But how does that, specific to you, how do you view yourself?
I gotta say, it's basically the same things. I'd agree that I'm funny, social and stuff like that, but I feel like I'm real down to earth too. People won't always see that side of you whenever you just want to talk one-on-one with somebody, but I feel like I'm like that myself.
Has it always been that way for you, or was there times when you had insecurities and maybe your self-image wasn't as what it is today?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was back in the day whenever I was just a youth, I definitely wasn't like that. I was playing with the kids, you remember the kids at recess that would just run around and do whatever was in their imagination. And I'm not talking kindergarten, I'm talking like third grade.
Yeah.
You're doing this, So I wasn't always, the cool guy. But it was fourth grade whenever I started like feeling like I had to change that myself because I wanted to be more social. So that's when I started doing that.
And what kind of impact? So you made this shift where maybe as a kid you didn't have a positive self-image. I think you even mentioned to me one time you had a birthday party that was a little bit lonely?
Yeah, nah, it was at Chuck E. Cheese, man. Nobody pulled up. And I felt confident that people were going to pull up. I was like, oh, it's the invitations. I got some invitations. Yeah. Nobody was there, man. Cold day.
I would have gone.
I appreciate
Chuck E.
that.
Cheese.
But how did that make you feel?
Man, as a kid, you don't really think too much about it, but I was like, dang, like, nobody showed up, you know? So it made me think, like, do I have any friends, you know, and stuff like that? And that could impact you just right there early on. So
Yeah.
it hit me as a kid, yeah.
So when you go through something like that, you know, and you've made this shift where, you know, you really feel positive about yourself, you got a lot of confidence in yourself. How did you actually make that shift? I mean, what did that practically in your life, what did that look like? Because I think that would be pretty devastating, you know, to think, you know, hey, I'm going to have kids show up at my birthday, nobody shows up, and then there's other things like that. Like, how did you actually do that?
The transition, it was just like I started, you know, hanging out with the kids I saw that did more of those things. So, like, I would hang out with the kids that were always playing the sports, you know, hang out with the ones that would always talk the most. I started doing that, and then, like, I started just showing myself more. I started, you know, being who I am today a little bit more and more. And at the end of the day, that's what got me to where I am, is just being myself.
Yeah, not trying to be something that you're not.
Yeah, you know, and you try to do that at first, but then you realize that just makes you look corny, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, you just be yourself.
What do you think about that, Bailey? If you were going to answer the same question, you know, how would you describe your self-image and why? What would you say?
Well, people look at me as like the jokester of the group and, you know, the one who people can come to and talk to. But I see myself as someone who's very insecure. And so, like, the littlest thing you say to me, it might be a joke, but then I overthink it. But I think I had my real self-image inside. Not a lot of people know who I really am. But definitely, I see myself as somebody who cares about themselves, but also, like, wants to change and be like everybody else. But I also want to be myself at the same time. It's, like, confusing. You're like, who do I want to be? Do I want to be a fake person one day, or do I want to be myself and try to fit in?
Yeah. So I know that you had told me that you've had some struggles along the way with self-image, particularly in transitioning from elementary school into middle school. Let's talk a little bit about that.
So elementary school was tough for me too because I got bullied from kindergarten through 6th grade. It was always the same group of kids. And I'd always come home, my dad would always tell me the same thing, be Bailey and stuff. And I need to be myself. But, like, when I try to be, nobody wants to hang around me. So I just kept getting bullied. So, you know, at an early age, when you're little, you don't know how to fight those, like, people off. You don't know what to say to them, so you just ignore them. And then middle school, and that's when all the boys, you know, just started getting meaner. So I got called a lot of names in the hallway. Like, they just would come up to me and just say the meanest thing to me, and that would just destroy me the rest of the day. But this year was, like, different since not all those people are at the school, and I feel like it's a breath of fresh air. I'm, like, not getting those names called anymore. But, I mean, it was a struggle for the longest time, and I didn't know who to turn to or who to talk to because you were still trying to find your group or who, like, you stuck with. So I didn't really have a lot of people to talk to. And if I talked to my parents, they tried to help the best they could, but they didn't go to school with me every day, so they didn't really understand it that much. But I think that now, like, it's so much different now because I've started to be myself, and people actually, like, didn't judge me when they saw me. They were like, she's actually a nice person. Like, she's, like, not who everybody thought she was.
Yeah. And how did that, I know one of the things that when we were speaking, you said, you know, I find a lot of comfort in being able to talk to God. I talk to God every night, and I feel like God always hears me, always listens, and he knows my insecurities. Mm-hmm. What is that? Like, how did that come about? Because I know you were really listening to people for a long time and what they said about you.
Well, I started coming to youth, and I believed in God, but I didn't, like, truly believe in him. I didn't, like, get to know who he was. And so you started talking about prayer and stuff, and I was like, let me just give this a shot. And so I did, and I just done it ever since, every night. It just clears my mind and like makes me sleep better, knowing that I have somebody to talk to, because like I'm that friend that people can talk to about, but when it's my turn to talk, they all just vanish. So it's good to have somebody on my team who listens.
Yeah.
And it just helped me a lot. Like the glasses thing that we did, that helped a lot. It like was like, wow, you didn't know how fogged up I was in Satan's word until like you said that. I was like, wow, I am believing what he's saying instead of God's word.
Yeah, so what Bailey's telling you about is we did a sermon a few weeks back called "Don't Let the Lie Become the Lens." You can check it out on our YouTube page. But Satan always wants to tell us a lie about who we are and who God is, and Satan will tell you things like you're not pretty and you're not smart enough and you're not good enough, and that, oh, by the way, God doesn't hear your prayers and God doesn't care and God's awful. But that's all lies. But we sometimes can view our life through that lens and believe those lies, or we can truly believe the Word of God, right? And He says, listen, you're beautiful, you're created in my image, you're smart, you're talented, you're all these things. And by the way, I'm good, I hear you, I want to give you a future and a hope and all, and this. And so when we talk about the glasses, that's what Bailey's referring to. So if you didn't get a chance to check that sermon out, make sure you check it out on our YouTube page. So Marlon, does anything Bailey said, does that hit you in some type of way?
Oh, for sure. I can relate to that a lot, because that's how it is at first. Like, you got to, whenever you want to get a stable group of friends, like, I feel like that's how I was at first. You didn't feel, like, comfortable talking to them. But, like, if they're good friends, they'll definitely listen, You just got to see. But another thing was, everybody's got insecurities, So with my self-image, I never brought that up because you wouldn't really see that. But you can definitely, like, that's how I am, and that's how everybody is. You definitely got some things you worry about, and you just wouldn't even think about.
Especially when you're that friend and you tell them that you have that, like, insecurity. They're like, no, you don't. It's not true. Because, like, they don't see you as that person who looks at yourself like that. Because that's not what a person you come off as.
Sure.
So they're like, I don't believe you. So they don't help you through it because they don't believe that it's true when it really is.
Yeah. So I got one final question for you guys before I close this out tonight. So Bailey, I'm going to give you the first one. So how has your growing relationship with Jesus helped you to have a better perspective about yourself?
Oh, it's helped me tremendously. Like, he's like that little guy that sits on my shoulder, and just when I look in the mirror, he tells me all the positive things about me instead of the negatives. And that helps a lot about yourself, because then I feel when I walk out the door to go anywhere, I feel more confident in my own body instead of like feeling down, being like, oh my gosh, everybody's looking at me, everybody's staring at me. Instead, I'm like, I don't care if they stare because I have Jesus on my team. Like, he knows who I really am, and he believes that I'm beautiful, like, and I need to believe that too. So it helped a lot.
That's good. And your prayer life's been a big, big part of that.
Yes.
And has youth been a big part of that as well?
Absolutely, because I finally found people who understand, and like they listen. It's different here than it is at school. Like, they listen here.
Yeah.
They listen to what their problems are, and they know exactly what to say to you to make you feel better.
So if a teenager was listening tonight and they were struggling with their self-image, and even if they know Jesus, would you encourage them to become a part of a youth group somewhere, anywhere?
Absolutely. It helps so much. It tremendous. You don't think it is because you just think it's like a group of people that you just go to church and you just hang out. You don't know how much it actually helps until it helps.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know how big of an impact it has on you.
That's good. So Marlon, last question for you. If you could encourage somebody who's struggling with a negative self-image of themselves tonight, what would you say to them?
It's going to sound corny, but what Bailey's dad said to her, be Bailey. You got to be the best you always, Don't try to be the best Marlon. Don't try to be the best John. Be the best you, and that's going to take you farther than anything else can.
And don't listen to what the haters have to say about yourself.
Hey, Taylor Swift, haters gonna hey. She wasn't capping, man. It's all you.
That's right. And it's so important, right, that you have God to turn to. What would you say to that young person who is turning to friends, they're turning to the world, they're turning to just whatever can make them feel better, right? They're reading whatever's on social media for self-help. Like, what would you say to them about how God is going to improve or at least show them who they are?
Hey, God's going to show you in more ways than you can think of. You just got to open up to him, you know, talk to him and, like, get down and, like, see who you really are. And then as soon as you start trying to portray that.
But the world just tells you that he's not real. So if you listen to the world, you're going to be like, he's not real. So why would I turn to somebody who's not there?
Yeah.
So,
that's
like,
a struggle with
you got to
it,
take that chance. You got to be like, well, I'm just going to do it. And then see where it leads you, because everybody, I guess, listens to God in a different way, and he reaches people in different ways. So the way he reaches to you just will help you.
That's good. That's good. All right. Well, listen, I want to encourage you guys in a final word. I want to thank Bailey. I want to thank Marlon for sharing how they deal with this, but I want to give you a final encouraging word. And I want you to know that God created you. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or you're poor. It doesn't matter whether you're good in school or you're not good in school. Here's what I want you to know, is that God created you in his own image, and he created you perfectly the way that you are. He has a hope and a future for you and a plan for your life, and that God knows you even before you were ever born. And I'm going to read a scripture to you from the Psalms, and this scripture is about being known, because I feel like so many of us feel like that we're not known. That we don't matter, we don't stand out in the world, that something's wrong with us, that we don't look like the model on Instagram, or we're not as cool as the guy that's in the video, right? And so we constantly strive for these things, but in the grand scheme of things, those things don't mean anything. Only thing that matters is who God says you are, and God says you are his child created in his own image. And so I love what David writes in the Psalm. So I'm going to be in Psalm 139, starting in verse 13, and here's what the psalmist wrote. He said, "You made all the delicate inner parts of my body, and you knit me together in my mother's womb." That's right, God was there when you were being formed in your mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous, how well I know it. That means that God never makes a mistake, that his workmanship is perfect, and you are not a mistake. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. God was there with you when you were being formed. You saw me before I was born, and every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of the sand. Maybe you didn't know, but God thinks about you all the time. You're always on God's mind. And it says his thoughts about you outnumber the grains of sand. And if you just think about that for half a second, think about how often God is encouraging you. He's on your side, and he's telling you that you are perfect, made in his image. So don't listen to what the haters have to say. Don't listen to what people in the hallway have to say, or people on social media have to say. Just go be Marlon, go be Bailey, go be you, the perfect person that God made you. Hang out with us, drop us a comment, DM us on Instagram at pursuit.students, and we'll see you again next time.